So, welcome to another glorious episode of Kate Sorts Things Out, Your Welcome Universe. So I was coming out of the gym recently and there's like a parking lot opposite where it's free to park until 12 on a Sunday, and then after that you have to pay. And it was like 10 to 12 and there were traffic wardens whacking tickets on windshields, and I was like, excuse me, these people are parked perfectly legally. They've got 10 minutes to move their cars or get a ticket. And they're, just, doing it just in case they don't show up. But absolute bullshit. They were just like, the council is trying to make a fast buck and the traffic wardens are probably on commission or targets or whatever. And it seems to me that this is a very sort of rising modern phenomenon, a bit like micro pigs or those dickheads who pay for things with their fucking watch. This idea that public bodies, private bodies, councils can basically raise a bit of extra cash by making their rules a bit complicated so that people will break them and then fining people. Last year, a third of British motorists paid a fine. Right, now that tells me that these fines aren't working. People are not driving within the law. People are accepting paying the odd fine as a kind of occupational hazard if they drive around the country. It says it's not having the behaviour modifying effect that it's supposed to have. There's also these things called PSPOs, which have been on the rise. They're like ASBOs, but they're public space protection orders. So instead of being targeted at individuals, they're targeted at public spaces. So councils can kind of designate a park and say you're not allowed to cycle through here, that kind of thing. Last year, 10,000 people were fined up to 100 quid in the UK for breaching these. And like, some weird stuff is going on. 861 people in Peterborough paid a fine for spitting. I mean, I've been to Peterborough. I don't remember the streets being awash with sputum. But I like to imagine that, because that's the annual number, we don't know the breakdown, right? I like to imagine that there was just one day when like Farage or Trump or somebody visited Peterborough and the people of Peterborough just collectively went to their windows and went... And the police were like running along behind them. Oi, I saw you, and that's the eye, and stop it, I can see you're planning to. What's all that shit? Stop it, stop masticating. If so, I would like to send my warmest congratulations to the successful Peterborough Spitathon organisers for their glorious protest. Well done. Next time, stick to milkshakes. It looks easier. But there's also some really super sinister stuff. So people in 6 different council areas have been fined for begging, as if anybody's going to go, I'll stop begging now, I've got no money. People have been fined for sleeping rough, which again is just, it defies logic on such an industrial scale. Like, oh, well, now I realise how expensive it is to sleep in a piss-filled Topshop doorway. I guess I'll go stay at the Ritz instead. It's super doesn't work like that. If you're going to charge people £100 to sleep in a shop doorway, the very, very least you can do is pop a little chocolate on their pillow. Oh, how thoughtful of the council. Oh, that's not chocolate. And the thing is that this is ridiculous. And there's 2 things that we need to do. First of all, we need to make it illegal to use petty fines to target people who are already vulnerable, because all it does, it takes away whatever money they've got, if they've got any at all, and then it criminalises them when they can't pay. And the last thing that homeless, desperate people need is to be criminalised. And in fact, the Home Office has guidance that says PSPOs shouldn't be used to target the most vulnerable. But guidance is useless because it's obviously not working. It's still happening. They need to get rid of guidance and bring in a rule, a bloody rule. And the other thing that needs to stop is bodies, public, private, etc., being allowed to use these petty fines as a way of making money, because that's so obviously what is going on. And I get that councils are squeezed, and I get that organisations are squeezed, and they're thinking this is a way of making a fast buck. We need to stop that because it's not fair on people. And the way to do that, I think, because I understand that there are times when a fine is a good way of encouraging people to, be respectful of the rules and so on and so forth, and that this can be a good way to encourage better behaviour in public and so on and so forth. But the trick is we allow people to issue fines, we allow these bodies to issue fines, but we make it the law that the money raised doesn't go to the body that issued the fine. The money raised goes to a central fund, and we use it to support community projects around the country and around the world that are doing positive and constructive things. And you might be thinking, well, of course that would solve the problem of it being used to make a fast buck. But that sounds like a lot of work, setting up a huge organisation to assess all these different applications and figure out where to allocate money and so on and so forth. And you'd be wrong, because such an organisation already exists. It's called Comic Relief. Bingo. And maybe I've read something about them giving money to the wrong people, but I mean, really, are they worse than Peterborough Council? Wandering around going, there's a bit of dribble on your bottom lip, that'll be £100, mate. And if you don't like Comic Relief, well, all right, there's loads more. I mean, pretty much every TV, telethon type event has an organisation behind it that assesses applications and allocates money to causes that they feel are worthwhile. The National Lottery has one. They have their good causes team. Do a little audit of all of those organisations and pick the one that you think is doing the best job, and we'll give them the money. And then there's no incentive to fine people unless we really, really believe it's working. You're welcome, universe. What else have you got for me? How can I help?